Okay, so in this video today we're going to take a look at the Umarex Glock 17 Gen 4. Okay, so this is the Glock 17 Gen 4 from Umarex, and I have it here obviously fitted with the laser ammo Spider for doing my laser target shooting. Let's have a quick walk around on the box. So this is the box you get obviously from Umarex. So it's a 4.5mm steel BBs. This particular one obviously has the 12-gram CO2 cartridge. It's 5 steel BBs. It has 18 round capacity in the magazine, semi-auto, smooth bore, single action, and it's basically about 767 grams in weight. So probably sort of reasonably close to sort of like the real steel version. It's kind of got a good weight to it. Okay, so this actual gun I bought, obviously, and you get one magazine with it, and I bought a second one just as a sort of backup magazine. And the only modifications I've made to this, apart from attaching the laser Spider attachment on the rail here, is that with the magazines I don't actually shoot any steel BBs, so I've modified these to remove the actual BB follower that obviously sits on top of the spring here, and normally sort of like pushes obviously the BBs up to the top, and obviously when you've got the last shot it will hold open the slide. So I've removed that, and obviously that means I can run this without having any problems with the slide sort of locking open during shooting. Okay, so let's have a quick walk around on the pistol itself. So again, you've got the polymer frame, metal slide here, and obviously on this side you can see it says officially licensed product of Glock. You have obviously the stippling on the grip here. You've got trigger, obviously you can see with the trigger safety built in, and the switch here to obviously remove the slide. Going on the other side, again you'll see again another sort of mechanism here to help remove the slide. You've again got the slide lock mechanism, the magazine release, and Glock logo. You can see here obviously 17 Gen 4 Austria, and it's got little 9x19 markings on here. This particular one has been used quite a bit by me, and you can see some signs of wear here on the actual barrel shroud. I'll cover this in more detail when we strip the gun down, but typical of this type of gun, you get this kind of rubbing. I mean, this is a working gun for me, so it doesn't really bother me, but if you're a collector and you wanted obviously sort of to keep your guns in pristine condition, firing them will cause this to happen over time, so just be aware of that. I tried putting some lubrication on here and on the inside of this slide. Didn't make any difference though. It's contact to contact on metal, and you're just going to get that behaviour. Okay, so let's go ahead and just obviously make sure it's clear. Yep, no BBs. Yeah, so what is there to say about the Glock? I mean, firm favourite with a lot of people. You can see why. It's just the ergonomics of it are very simple, and the styling and design is such a classic now, and it feels good gun to shoot. I mean, reasonably light with the magazine in, a little bit heavier, but feels good. It's a good size gun. The 17, for me, my hand size fits perfectly. You do get, when you buy this additional grip that you can put on here, they just stick onto the actual main grip and just bulk it up a little bit. So there is that capability as well. And if you need that, you can obviously put those on. Okay, so let's go ahead and I think we'll strip it down. So to strip it down on this one, you need to just obviously pull down these lugs on both sides at the same time, and then you can just pull the slide forward, and there you go. So you've got your polymer frame here. You can see, if I just put the slide down a second, you can see the mechanism here for the trigger mechanism, and obviously the slide itself being polymer, you don't get a lot of rubbing on here. It is worth dropping a few little drops of oil on here just to make sure it slides nice and easily, but pretty easy maintenance. When it comes to the mechanism of the slide, you've got this normal sort of slide, obviously spring you have here for handling the cocking and recoil of the device. Let's just remove that a second. So that's like a kind of enclosed spring mechanism. You don't really need to do much with that, just a little bit of lubrication on there now and again to keep the springs nice and healthy. Second to that, you've got this little plastic clip here that you can just pop out, and then you can get access to the barrel. So just push that to one forward a little bit, and then if you just raise that up, and you slide the whole mechanism out, and there you go. Now the barrel does come in two pieces. You have like an inner piece. This is your typical barrel, with obviously where your steel BBs go through, where you have obviously the mechanism to obviously for the gas to the CO2 gas to obviously fire the BB down through the barrel, and then this obviously is your kind of outer shroud to give the kind of look and feel of a classic Glock. And again, you know, these just obviously sit inside each other like that. And again, you can see here, I mean, hopefully that's clear in the picture, you can see the wear just on the top there as it obviously rubs on the inside of the slide. Again, you can put bits of lubrication on there. It doesn't seem to make a huge difference. I kind of tried that at the beginning. You get some wear also here and here, some contact points, so just be kind of aware of that. If you do use this gun for shooting still BBs, then you will see this kind of behaviour, especially on a Gen 4. Okay, going on to the slide. So pretty much this is all now enclosed mechanism. So here you have obviously your gas port with obviously the inner mechanisms for where the gas would obviously come out through and fire the BB. Now this kind of brings me on to where I had my first failure with this pistol. Now I did have a situation where this became super stiff and wouldn't retract, and it got to a point where it was unable to shoot. Now I stripped it down, and I did have two of these, so I've got a kind of example here of the other gun that's no longer functioning. But you essentially have this plastic kind of port here that sits inside, if I can get that to sit in there, and that is pretty much what you're looking at here. And then within inside this there is this like a little piston thing that's screwed into the base here. I don't know if you can see that. There's like a mounting point there, and this sits and screws into there. And then this obviously is where the gas is obviously captured and then obviously fired down the barrel. Now what happened with me was this particular seal here became detached from this, and actually was distorted and sort of pulled over the edge here. So it wasn't actually sat on the seat properly, it was actually out of its seating, and it was rubbing on the inside of this plastic port here, and got to a point where it just locked up, just wouldn't operate anymore. Now I stripped it all down, took the seal off, it was all distorted, left it overnight, and it kind of reshaped itself, and put it back together, and it worked fine. So I got this as kind of like a backup now, but that was the kind of only failure that I've had with this on the side of it not being able to shoot. Now I did have one additional failure on this, which was more catastrophic, and I had the actual hammer itself. But I say the hammer, but it's, I don't know if you can see down in here, you've got the striker that actually hits the gas kind of valve on the magazine to release gas for each shot. That literally snapped off on me, and obviously was kind of disastrous because it was non-operational then. Now what I've realised was that when I was first owned this and I was firing it, I did dry fire it with no magazine in, so that striker had nothing to hit against, and I'm wondering whether the fact of me doing that weakened it over time and it caused it to fail. Again, it's just a guess, I don't know. So what I do now is whenever I fire this, I tend to leave the magazines in, so it's got something to impact on, and touch wood, I haven't had a failure to date, so I'm hoping that was what the issue was. But just something to bear in mind, if that fires into nothing, so there's no magazine in here and it just drops into nothing, I was wondering whether that might be the kind of cause of the failure. Okay, so let's reassemble this. So again, to reassemble it, you've got your barrel, inner barrel, into the slide, just obviously let that drop in, push it back to seat it. You then need to have this plastic lug here that sits with the guide spring, and that just allows that to seat, and then it's a case of just obviously pulling this back so it can just seat onto the little lug there, and that's pretty much it. And once you've got that done, it's a case of just making sure you've got the slider right way around, and then just bringing it back onto the pistol and just racking it back, and you're good to go. And there she is. And again, you know, from a point of view of obviously the mechanism, it's a pretty reliable mechanism. I've not had any kind of failures apart from what I've just spoke about. So, and I have shot quite a few shots through this. So, again, I think the hammer might have been my issue, but the way I was firing it. The valve is something that I haven't had happen yet. I did use those Walther CO2 cartridges that have the maintenance lubrication built into them. I did use it on here quite a lot, so I wonder whether I may have over lubricated it and caused that failure as well. So it might just be, again, another user error. I don't know if anyone drop any comments if you've had a similar issue. with any of these Umarex or other type of Glocks that are kind of built in a similar way. For me, it was kind of fixable, so I wasn't too bothered, and I've got spare backup now. However, I've got, you know, one of the pistols is non-operational because of the broken hammer, which I've been unable to source a replacement, so I might have to let that one go. But yeah, overall, you know, pretty good gun from the point of view of operation. Good weight to it, nice positive slide sound. There is a little bit of rattle on it, but nothing out of the ordinary for these type of firearms. You get that a little bit. I mean, it depends on which version you've got. They can either be better or worse, but overall, you know, pretty good. I'm quite impressed with it. It does really well, especially when it's firing CO2 cartridges. You get a good, nice, positive blowback. Gets a bit kind of annoying, obviously, cooler temperatures and that, because you get less shots because of the nature of the CO2. Same with green gas, I assume. And obviously, that's the only sort of gripe I've got, that this is single action, so you need the CO2 to operate. But yeah, other than that, reasonably pretty good. Now, coming on to obviously another topic, someone left a mention in the comments about how kind of realistic this slide action is on some of the Berettas that I've got, and I just want to cover that quickly at the end of this video. So you may have seen this in another video. This is the A1 Beretta that I've got, and this particular one is quite heavy. It's full metal, pretty good from the point of view of operation. Just make sure it's clear, and it's probably my favourite, I guess, you know, from the point of view of operation, especially with this double action, that I don't need CO2 cartridges to run this. That's a big bonus for me from the point of view of operation. So kind of you know, had this for a while now. Again, another Umarex product, pretty solid, pretty durable. I don't know quite where these are made, whether they're made in, oh, it says Germany, but I think it may be, I don't know if it's made in Taiwan or something. But this one, you know, I've not had any failures yet. Again, sort of, you know, if I do, I'll obviously post some information on that, but overall it's been pretty reliable. And in terms of sort of like the slide option, you know, the slide action, sorry, it's pretty positive. You get a good pullback, you know, nice solid pullback, release, a nice solid click. Second pullback, once it's been cocked, it's a lot easier and it's less noise, but you get the same sort of like a nice positive sort of like a spring action back. I think from a realistic point of view, I'd say you'd be pretty happy with this. I've never obviously fired a real steel gun, so I wouldn't know for certain, but this doesn't feel, and there's a little bit of wobble in there. Take the magazine out. It's mostly the magazine. So that's the only sort of noise you get. But in terms of the slide action, I don't know if you get that on the video, quite positive. If you run it on the slide lock, so you got, yeah, I'd say you'd be pretty happy with that. It's far, you know, in terms of sort of obviously my understanding of it, I would say that that's pretty realistic. And if anyone in the comments wants to actually mention it, you know, if they compare it with the real steel, that'd be kind of interesting to know. But for the person who obviously left the comments about obviously, you know, if how it feels in terms of realism, I'd say it's pretty good. But that's the A1. Going on to the A3, which I recently owned, and again use this for the laser ammo spider stuff. So this is obviously the military sort of version. Very similar, full metal. You know, magazine is again all metal, good construction. Let's make sure it's clear. Yep. Very similar on the slide. You've got the little bit of wobble there. Mostly the magazine. But typically, again, you know, this one, the slide itself, nice positive pullback, no wiggle much, and then solid drop forward. Not quite as forceful as the A1, I think, but certainly still pretty realistic, I would imagine. Again, on the actual catch, nice positive drop, hammer, you know, decock it. I'd say on the A3 you probably got less noise. It's probably a little bit more muted, but it's still pretty good. I wouldn't have any problems with that from a realism perspective. Again, you know, if anyone who's familiar with these from the real steel version, what they think of that, whether that does sound realistic or not. be interesting to know. But yeah, just thought I'd mention that because someone did actually mention in the comments, obviously from the point of view of realism. Okay, so I hope you found this video useful. Again, sort of like I'll keep an eye on obviously these as I use them, and if I get any additional failures whatever on any of these pistols, I'll certainly put a video out to sort of explain what that is. And thanks for watching. Catch you next time.